Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting this session. And we're going to try to make it a fun topic, which may not be the belief of many of the attendees that standards can be a fun topic. Yes, we can prove that. It's a complex topic, as you see on this slide, and it's only half of the slide. This slide is an attempt to look across the spectrum in a somewhat simplified way of the movement of data, starting on the left with the citizen, and the fact that the citizen may have devices that it manages, either for its well-being or with the purpose of remote monitoring, and is pushing that data sometime in a mobile app, sometime in an app, and somewhere toward a care delivery organization. You can view this as a hospital, a clinic, or some entity of that sort. There is also a desire for the citizen with an app or through a portal to interact with records that have been collected from care delivery points. And this interaction very often is mediated by a health information exchange, regional or national. This is the dark brown figure. And we also have, sometime in hospital data, medical device data that happen to be shared and which become accessible in some way, shape, or form to the citizen. This is a rare case today, but this may actually expand in the future. As soon as you lay such a picture, you are seeing that the mobile world, device, apps of that sort, and the more traditional world of portals and eHealth infrastructure and the current health delivery IT system are all interacting in various degrees and various directions. And that picture is not quite complete because we need to add the care provider, the health professional, who through apps has very good reason to access health records through an app, sometimes through a portal. This is done today, through and mediated through a health regional national infrastructure. You see that the outcome of this is that if I ask you, or if I ask myself, where is mHealth? Where is eHealth? Where is the boundary between those two worlds? We can probably start a very long conversation and most likely conclude that this may not be a useful conversation. The useful conclusion is we are simply speaking of enhancing the number of systems and devices through which data may be created or may be accessed at different point and different level of responsibility in the deployment of the health ecosystem in which the healthcare ecosystem lays. So this may be a first thought that I would like you to test through this session and debate with us, which is to say, mHealth and eHealth should really be seen as a continuum, and as soon as we strategize and look at standards and interoperability in that space, we need to take a combined view. Now, this same analysis has been done between IHE and Continua, two organizations that have collaborated for some time, and you will hear more about this through Michael, and he will explain you this slide in detail. But in a nutshell, Continua uses IHE profile and expand them, and IHE does certain things that Continua doesn't do. But you see now that that green side is actually reaching out into the personal health connected environment. And we have a reuse of interoperability that was designed for hospital-based devices, data collection, and that has been repurposed with the same set of standards into connecting homes to care management system and to the healthcare system. So we're beginning to see that silos and different elements of the healthcare system may actually be the customers of the same set of standards and the same combination of standards for the same purpose to move the same type of data. So there is much to optimize in the eHealth mL space, and compartmentalizing the two worlds would be a mistake because we would fail or not leverage that synergy. And the synergy can go both ways. The world of mHealth is actually influencing the world of eHealth. You will hear from Ed Hammond a lot of work that HL7 is doing that is actually, that started into the mobile space and that has moved to some degree into the eHealth space. So that's kind of one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is to look at the world as it is today. And today, mobile apps in healthcare are being deployed, are being used. They are used by health professionals, that's what you see on the left. But the way they interpret with the system to which they are connected is essentially proprietary. The apps and the system to which it connects is designed by the same vendor. It's the vendor product that has now another delivery system, which is a tablet or a mobile system. And we see that in EMRs, in PACS, RIS, and many other lab systems where the traditional system have invaded the mobile world. We also see this in the patient space, where patient apps, and I'm sure you have some on your mobile and I have some on my mobile, interact with portals or servers where we have some access to some of our health data. Could be hospital, could be an insurance giving us explanation about certain claims and the refund that we are receiving, could be a laboratory that is allowing you to access data after you've been to that laboratory, and so forth. Again, we have a paradigm where it is an app or it's a portal, but it is essentially a easily accessible thing, but where the communication is mastered by the same entity on both sides. And we see on the third column the same thing in well-being apps, apps that measure a lot of body signals and that allows you to store them somewhere in the cloud. If you try to use another app to access that service in the cloud, you're going to discover that it doesn't work. Okay, so it means the two are glued together. What's between the app and the server? Look at it and you will find that it is something that has been designed by the provider of the app and the server in the cloud. So the conclusion of this is that over the last few years, a number of additional silos have been created. Actually, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of silos. We used to create data silos in the healthcare world, not having connected system. Oh, yeah, but that was small game. Now we're doing it by the thousands and the hundreds of thousands. So we are even creating a much more complex environment to interconnect and to deal with. Some of you may say, why do all of those need to use standards? Actually, they don't. It is true that if I use an app that is running on my watch that is managing my data, I just care that the watch be connected to the server, that my data is managed, that I have access to it, and so what? And I'm perfectly happy, and therefore why standardizing what doesn't need to be standardized? What may have to be standardized is the export of the data from the cloud server to my health record or to another system. So suddenly the mobile link is not what should be the focus of standardization. So we're beginning to see out of this a large number of silos. That's a bad news. The good news is some of them really need to be standardized. I was in Brussels last week, with somebody who is developing an app where he's hoping to collect healthcare data from all or most of the places where it is available from, and is hoping to get the permission and the management of each patient who has this app to connect and authorize all of those access so that he can become an aggregator of that data. And he's the one who told me, I need standards because I can get that data from hundreds of thousands of places. And if I leave Belgium and go to France or Switzerland, it's going to be another game. So my business model will never exist without standards. So we have this duality where in the mobile world, some APIs need to be standardized and have a reason to be, others not. So we have to make sure not to be dogmatic, to really think through and understand what is the context of use and the business model that is applied. If I have an app that needs ubiquitous access, it's kind of a term that I called, not having it means this, means multiple apps going to different points of care delivery and of health data that surrounds the patient. And if you have some health issues, you're going to rapidly discover that it's 5, 10, 15, sometimes more point where some of your data may be. So that becomes a pretty big challenge to deal with that proliferation of apps on your cell phone first, and then the work to connect and maintain the connectivity and the authentication across all of those apps. That's a good weekend of work. If you have nothing else to do on your weekend, good luck, but I don't think that most citizens would say, wonderful, mHealth, you've solved my problem. No, you've made me work hard to solve a small part of my problem. Please, please, I need something better. So that's maybe the dream of the patient, to have an app that could be the same. He may understand that he needs to authenticate and be identified in all of the sources, but accessing them makes some sense. But even that, the patient may say, yeah, okay, if the best you can do, that's fine, but why not thinking of a better model where there is actually a point of access and an eHealth infrastructure, away from a point of access to get at that data in a consistent, standardized form. That's what we do in health infrastructure, eHealth infrastructure at the regional or national level, so that with a single point of access, I can get to my data. So many countries have such a yellow cloud and are thinking and actually piloting points of access, and that makes the user experience much more enjoyable. Now, is there still a need for a standard? I would say absolutely, because at that point you may want to give freedom of choice of app to the consumer and say any app that meets the API of the point of ME, mobile eHealth access, is fine. If you authorize that app to get at the data, the patient may choose one or the other because there is one that is more fitted for the patient condition and processes the data with a perspective or a way that makes the patient more comfortable. So let's think that patients are consumers and consumers are looking for choice, and this is where standards are important to play. And I'm introducing here the collaboration between HL7 and IHE on some of those standards in order to connect to those point of care. You will hear much more about what HL7 is doing, but I will speak about it right now. It's important to understand the world of mobile platform and some of the interoperability standardization platform iOS or Android or Windows have built in, and that are the ones that are natural to use. And this shift to those type of platform and those type of standards, I would say bottom layer standard, not healthcare related, but at the generic IT level, is something that HL7 has done with Fire and is in the process of developing and I'm sure Edamon will talk to us about this and why this makes strategic sense. FHIR is being developed, has started a few years back, has grown, has matured, is making good progress, is being piloted and tested in a variety of places, yes, at a small scale, but a lot of good feedback is being given, and IT has been engaged in that collaboration. So you're beginning to see collaboration between Continua and IT, HL7 and IT, HL7 and Continua. All of those organizations that you are hearing today are working and plan on continuing to work together to improve the overall solution. So just a little snapshot here on some of the profiles that are being developed and that are tracking the evolution of FHIR and are going to be finalized as soon as FHIR become a stable standard. One of them is MHD. Many of you may know the IT profile called XDS, Cross Enterprise Document Sharing. MHD is mobile health, mobile device access to health document, and I can nickname it XDS on FHIR or XCA for cross-community access when you approach exchange of documents in a federated way. So you view those two sides. They are built and using FHIR and FHIR resources, essentially the document resource, and can be easily bridged in an existing infrastructure where documents are being shared. So we are seeing a little bit, you remember the model where you have an access point, an infrastructure, and the delivery to the mobile world using a good standard, well-fitted for mobile devices. So that's essentially one of the things. IT is not trying to duplicate the work of FHIR. It's trying to take it, to package it, to make it easier to use, and enhance its facility of deployment, and more importantly, try to discuss or to evaluate the area of FHIR that are the most stable and on which we can be a little bit ahead of the curve. My last thought, or one before the thought, is when we talk about standards and we talk about testing, we have to talk about testing. And deploying standards profile without a solid testing infrastructure with rigor, something that is trusted by the market, is important. One element in this is the IT Connectathon, and many of you have a great country with a lot of sightseeing in Belgium, but you can, in Greece, you may go to Venice next April because that's where the next IT Connectathon is going to be held. As you know, we travel. We were in Germany last year. We were in Luxembourg the year before, and that's a European tradition. I want to conclude with some suggestions, some thoughts on some principle of mHealth and eHealth standards for the future. Some thought that I think I've tried to state in front of you and convince you of, which is mHealth and eHealth feed on each other, so let's not split those two worlds. Standardized interoperability is critical for certain classes of API, and they need it, and we absolutely need to educate, encourage those app developers not to fail or be disappointed when they will discover that connecting their app to non-standard APIs is actually a big task, and using standard is much better. HL7 FHIR is important. That's going to be the next talk, and you're going to know much more about this. In the view of IT, it is a great evolution, but we see it as an extension to the existing standards world. So we need to make sure we combine the existing investment, move forward, and speed up its adoption. And coordination between the organization, I'm listing a few here. There are more, is very important if we want consistent and pragmatic interoperability, which I believe we are well on the road to deliver. Thank you very much.